Yeah, you seem like you've always been well, you have this engineering background, but you also are highly money motivated. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, it's a pleasure in my position now. Like we've helped people close 10,000 deals in all 50 states, 7 years in. A huge driver for a lot of people is spending more time with their family. And I was just interviewing a guy named Wes. He's like, well, I was working 60 hours a week, but then I had, a kid, and I wanted to find something that I was a little bit more flexible. So I found out the secret is you don't actually want to retire. Nobody wants to stop working. They just want more meaningful work and a little bit more control. So I will say for me, though, I do not have kids, and it had a dream car, and I love the time freedom, but also you could say that I was money motivated for the things that I think money can buy that I get excited about like that.
And so it was always for you, you wanted to have the toy. I mean, do you think you'll ever have kids? I mean, do you want a family and
I
all
don't
that?
think I need kids, but maybe
Okay.
one day. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'd rather just focus on, like, one of the greatest joys of like growing a business is the personal development that it requires you to have in order to grow the business more. So like this year, I mean, all I wanted to do was get better at my podcast itself was like the biggest, personal thing. And social media as well. Like I had made $50 million in revenue in my business over 7 years before and that was all from social media, but I didn't like realize, oh, that's because social media. That's because people that make YouTube videos and help people get financial freedom through real estate investing recommend DealMachine, this app that I created. So super thankful that it was something that people naturally started recommending. But it wasn't until this year that I realized if my business wants to go to the next level, we should do marketing on our own. I should learn the skill of marketing. So I made a challenge to post, 4 times per day, and I'll hit 1,000 posts by the end of the year. I'm at 948 now. So I've gotten better, and I still have a lot to learn, but I think that's like one of the greatest like joys of business after, I had become financially free and gotten some time freedom as well, probably by the age of 29.
And so what is that freedom? How would you describe that freedom, and like how did you get there? I mean, was there a certain number that you had? What was that number for you that said, okay, I got this number, I'm earning this kind of cash flow, I'm free? What was that number for you, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so when I started out, I was working a $50,000 a year job, and I quit that when I was 26. Now, from 21 to 26, I saved 50% of my salary. So I was already living a pretty frugal life. I had 3 roommates. I drove a rusty Honda Accord, and I didn't make the 50% every month because, man, it's just really tight to live on 50 grand. But for the most part, I was successful in doing that. When I had this idea for DealMachine, and I knew it could be a business beyond just getting my own rental property, I was able to use that savings instead of investing it, just burning it while I worked on DealMachine for a couple years before it paid me. So, yeah, so I kind of forgot what the actual question is you just asked me, but.
Well, I just want to get, and I'll tell you why I asked the question is because I actually started, I built a financial services company. I started at 21. I was making $7 an hour when I started. And by the time I was 28, I had saved my first $1 million in cash. So
Oh, wow.
that for me was, and I was actually earning just right around $500,000 a year in passive income. And so for me, it was like, that meant freedom to me.
Amazing.
Like
Yeah.
I wanted to, because I always thought, right, if everything went away, that $1 million at 10% that generated 100 grand a year,
that's enough to live on.
That's enough to live on and be okay. So what was the number for you?
Yeah, it was like 14 rental properties.
There you
it was
go.
like I was making 70,000 a year. I was like, let me find a way to get to those rental properties. So I knew I had to find discounted properties. I couldn't really fathom saving $1 million in cash for some reason, but I had done like my first rental property and used a strategy called the BRRRR strategy, where you get a good enough deal you can get it financed and get all your money back out and just go do it again. So I could see a path that way, and that was kind of what I was focused on.
Yeah, I mean, it's cash flow, man. I mean, you went the cash flow way, and the reason why I'd been so focused on saving money is because, and investing the cash is because I of course dealt mostly with the stock market versus real estate. So most of my portfolio ended up being in stocks and investments like that, and decent little bit of real estate, but yeah, I think that, and I love hearing your story because it's very similar to mine in the sense that I was saving 50% of my, long time. I mean, that entire time I was investing in the right spots, getting great rates of return on my investment. But I was driving around in a $10,000 maximum. I was making $300,000 a year, and I was driving around a little, beater car. And I look back, and everybody told me, go buy a nicer car. You're supposed to sell the dream, and you got to buy this and buy a bigger house. And they were telling me all these things to do. And of course I didn't listen to them. I just stuck with my strategy and stuck with my game plan. I knew exactly what I wanted to achieve by the time I was, before I wanted to get it all done before 30. Happened a little bit earlier than that, but that was my absolute focus, was to get there at 30. Didn't want to retire because retirement means dying. So I didn't want to die. So I kept working, of course, but I was able to scale it down big time, and then do, like you said, right? Do the things that are more fun, do the things that you want to do more of, and not have to worry so much about money all the time. And that's what freedom was to me. So,
did you always live on the beach whenever you were driving that Nissan?
I actually didn't. Matter of fact, I never lived at the beach until now. I live in Newport Beach now, but my entire career, I lived in the inland in California. So, I mean, I was only an hour from the beach, but, I lived kind of near more mountains. But yeah, it was just wealth on the beach really was kind of a metaphor for me that gave people a visual of what freedom, choices, and options were. I mean, because that's all I was ever fighting for, was freedom, choices, and options. I didn't want anybody to put their thumb on me. I wanted to be in control 100%. I wanted to in control of my life. I want to travel. I travel. If I want to take the whole day off and watch Netflix all day, I can do that too. So I can do whatever I want to do, whenever I want to do it, anytime I want to do it. And that was my absolute focus. Now, of course, I kept working. I love to do my podcasts and write books, and there's other things I love to do. And I have a couple of kids, and I love to spend time with my kids. But the truth is, man, it was always about the freedom. So that's where wealth on the beach came from.
Love it.
So tell me, like, I mean, did you have like mentors? Did you have people that inspired you early on that really kind of, maybe there was somebody in real estate that was like an idol of yours a little bit, or like somebody that kind of inspired you to get to that next level?
Yeah. So I worked at a small company, and the owner had 5 rental properties. And I asked him why he has those instead of the stock market. And he said that you could retire. He wanted to retire when he was 40. And those rental properties would give cash flow every month, unlike the stock market that goes up and down. So that's what got me onto the idea. Then I went and looked for, a real estate meetup, and I was told to go look for houses that look run down. And the meetup was run by somebody named Brittany Wicks, who came to Indianapolis once a month to buy 30 properties. And once she saw that I made this app, I was using it for myself, she's like, well, I'll spend $1,000 to try any new marketing. And my jaw dropped. I was like, I'm not even trying to sell this. Like, if this was this easy to sell, I should put this on the App Store. So, I had to come up with a name. And so that's kind of history there. I didn't really have any mentors in real estate besides that boss that I worked for, and my own curiosity just kind of led me to people that were doing things, which was very important because my parents were totally worried. They're like, David, we're worried. Everybody we've talked to has had this horrible story. Diane at our church inherited a property, and the tenant trashed the house and left. And she didn't have insurance, so she didn't have a choice of, renting this property again. We just don't want to see you get hurt. And being around people that were doing it was so important because I do love my parents. They meant well, but I had known it was possible because I could see people doing it.
If you like this video and you want to watch another one, click right here. If you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.